Okay, we're live.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are joined with a very special edition of the Koalition where we're going to talk about the hate you give. We recently just saw it. I am Dana Abercrombie, your host, and I am joined by Sir Richard Bailey. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing very good, Dana, and thank you all for listening or watching today's show.
Yes, for that. Um, let's just jump right into it. The Hate You Give, it had a worldwide release yesterday, Friday, October the 8th, the 19th. Everyone has gotten a chance to see it, even over nationally. It's doing very well at the box office. There's a lot of talk and a lot of buzz about it. We wanted to have this discussion because it is, we would both agree, a superb movie. And those who don't know, about a couple years ago, Angie Thomas, she wrote this book called The Hate You Give, same name. It was her first novel. It was the talk of the town, and it was essentially considered a Black Lives Matter book. That book that finally got it right. There are many books out there that try to deal with the topic, but just don't do it as well as Angie did. And it quickly became a number one bestseller. It is about a girl named Star. She's in high school. She attends a high school that's majority white. However, she lives in Garden Heights, which is a neighborhood that is majority Black. She has a very loving family, parents, a mother and father both there. She has brothers, a very loving, very tight type of environment. She has a best friend named Khalil, and she goes to one of the parties, and everything is going out really, it's going really well at the party. Everyone's enjoying themselves. She's talking to Khalil. They're reconnecting because they've known each other since they were very small. And they leave the party because the party, there is a shooting incident. And through the chaos, everyone's leaving, the police are called. And during their ride, Khalil decides to drive Star home. He is stopped by the police. One of the differences between the two characters is that Star's parents taught Star how to interact with the police. Her uncle is also a police officer. So they taught her the rules of how to make sure that you make it home if you stop by the police. However, Khalil wasn't that experienced. He wasn't taught about that. So he, through an interaction that they show where he reaches for a hairbrush, it's mistaken for a gun. He is shot and killed by a police officer. Star is the only witness to the crime, and she now has to decide whether or not she's going to testify on his behalf, and the rippling effect that this death has on an entire community. Also, because she's attending an all white school, she feels that she has to divide herself, where she has to do the double talk that's explained as, as an African American, when you're around a lot of Caucasian people and you don't want to be considered ghetto, you have to, make sure that your grammar is correct. You can't have slang language, and you can't look a certain way or dress or act a certain way because that would be, again, perceived as being ghetto. Star lives in these two different worlds where she's able to be herself in Garden Heights. However, when she's in high school, she has to be this proper version, this Star 2.0, as she describes it. She also has a white boyfriend that she doesn't tell her parents much about because she keeps her two worlds very separate. So this movie explores all of these different themes about what is it like to be an African American in America, and also what's going on with the police shootings. So we're going to jump right in. Richard, how did you feel about the movie?
So I actually thought the movie was fantastic. And I did, right after I saw it, I told everyone I knew that they absolutely need to see this movie. My mom has already seen it because it actually came to Boston a little bit earlier,
Mhm.
and she's actually going to see it again today. So I am planning to see it again myself, more than likely tomorrow. But yeah, I thought the movie was fantastic. Um, a few other quick things I will mention. When I went to go see the movie, there was a screening here in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. Actually had the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, was there. The whole cast was there. Um, and it was just an excellent experience. You know, this is a movie that it really adds more to it when you see it with the audience, because, you know, the audience got very much into the movie. So that was a very interesting experience. But yeah, I definitely would encourage everybody to check the movie out. I know that there are a couple of movies that came out this month, but this is one movie that I think everybody should go out their way to see, especially because of the cast, because there aren't really too many movies like this that I have seen anyway, and the message of the movie. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go see it as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree completely with you. I was able to see it during a film festival. It was the Urban World Film Festival about a month or so ago. And the cast was there. Ava DuVernay was there as well as the director. And it was one of the most impactful movies I have ever seen. It was very emotional. And the difference between Richard and I's experience is that I've read the book previously. And even with the book alone, I went through it and was like very emotional. I found myself very attached to these characters and very attached to the stories. And it was one of the few YA books that I pick up, because I'm not a young adult. I am an old fart. But it's true. So I was like, but I went to BookCon previously, and the talk about this, and I known that it was already going to be a movie, and everyone was saying you have to pick it up. I was very hesitant just because I'm like, I don't know if the themes are going to be right, but the way how it was in the book was just, it pulled you in from the very beginning. Angie Thomas has this beautiful way with words and explaining and breaking down all these characters that is it's just exceptional. And so when I saw the movie, even though I saw the previews and we all seen the previews, I was a little hesitant just because I love the book so much and I felt very protective of it, even though that the casting looked like it was really good, and I was still just very hesitant, but it was just as emotional as reading the book. And even though I knew everything that was coming, I still it was weird because it didn't feel like my soul was prepared for what was on screen. And so it just hit me on this emotional level that I just really can't describe. I feel like for me, this movie was like best book adaptation ever, best movie of the year for me. Just how powerful the performances were was just amazing.
Oh well, I 100% agree with you on the performances, and to say that it is one of the best movies of the year, if not the best movie, I definitely think it is worthy of that because of the performances. So something I wanted to mention very briefly, well, two things actually. Although I did not read the book, as you mentioned, when I saw the first trailer of this movie, it's like they got me with that trailer because it pretty much told a brief overview of what the movie was about, and then the subject matter that they were dealing with. I mean, I was instantly drawn in. But then, of course, the cast, because the cast that they got for this movie was just fantastic. So I definitely may go back and check out the book in the future. But yeah, I think so, because I definitely would like to see the comparisons that were made between the book and the movie. One last thing I did want to say though, while the movie was good, there is one very unfortunate thing that did take place prior to it releasing. Well, actually, the day that it released, and that was the screenwriter Audrey Wells had passed away from cancer the day before, like on October 4th. So that was when I heard that news, it was very sad to hear that, because I felt like, I know she's been, I'm pretty sure she was dealing with this while she was working on this film. So I wanted to see her film has gotten, because I haven't really seen anybody talking negatively of the film. So that is an unfortunate thing, but she did a fantastic job on the screenplay. And yeah, as I said before, the movie did not disappoint me. I was very much into that, and definitely am very curious to see what happens. Not only in two things, not really just about the whole movie itself. I'm also curious to see what happens within the people that are in these movies, because there's a lot of the cast. There's a lot of young people in it as well. So I'm hoping that they also get opportunities to star in more movies, and then just mainly with the whole subject matter that they dealt with. I feel as though when you think about movies featuring our people, so on and so forth, most of the time they're in comedies, the romantic comedies and stuff like that, and it's not really in any thought-provoking films like this. This hopefully, I hope that this changes that. Also, Black Panther, because that movie was a big deal when that came out earlier this year, because people want to see Black people in other movies other than a romantic comedy or something like that. So I am hoping that something major does happen after this movie. We start to see more movies done to branch out and have people like us in much more prominent roles. But we shall see what happens.
Fingers crossed. See, we can have lovely Black movies, and it doesn't have to have Tyler Perry in it. Ooh.
Yes.
Was no Medea in the making of this movie?
Oh no, I'm glad for that. But hopefully, but we know that Medea character. I'm pretty sure you'll see that again. There'll be other movies that he'll make with that character, I'm sure. But
every scene, remember, there's a Boo 2 or a Boo 3.
Oh no, please no. I hope that doesn't come to pass.
Never say never. But as you were saying previously, some of the themes. Now, one of the themes obviously is the Black Lives Matter. That is the driving force of this movie. How do you feel that the criticism is going to be all lives matter? How do you feel that did it do an equal representation? Because remember, there was Uncle Carlos, who was the police officer played by Common, who brought his point of view is what it's like to be a police officer in this environment today. And he's a Black police officer on top of that. So even though he's a cop, he's hated by the community. But when he takes off that uniform, he's still hated by basically the cops. So do you feel that it did a good balance between that? Him being like the voice of the other side?
Well, I do think, well, first and foremost, I will say I think Common has really done a lot of great things as an actor. All of the projects he's been in, I've been intrigued by pretty much everything he's been in. In this particular film, I think maybe they could have emphasized more of how it impacts him, because that character, as I'm watching the film, like he's describing to Star, oh, this is a very complicated situation, but I don't really get a feeling of how it's impacting him on a personal level, having to deal with the regular people when he goes home, and then having to deal with with people on the police force. One movie that I did see recently that I feel really hit home with this particular portrayal, there was another film that came out. I have to check it very quickly because I can't think of it at the moment. It is a movie, though, that featured three different actors from three different points of view. I'll check that movie out so I can give the proper context. But in that movie, we had Denzel's son starred in it. He played a police officer, and pretty much it showed how it was, because there was a shooting that took place at the beginning of the film where white officers shot and killed the Black guy who was standing outside of on the street outside a grocery store. They shot and killed
Black Klansman.
Oh no, it wasn't that. It's another movie he was in. I have to check it because I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I'm just trying to remember the name. I'll come back to that. But pretty much, Denzel's son starred as a police officer, and he was on the team that made the mistake of firing the Black guy. Now, of course, they said it was a mistake. Obviously there was a lot more to it to imply it wasn't a mistake, because it's just a quick reaction to just shoot the guy. But even though he wasn't there when the incident happened, he felt all of the pressure after the fact, just having to deal with everything that was going on. And then, of course, he didn't tell his wife what happened but then they had a couple friends that came over and they got into an argument because the friend's wife knew what was happening and disagreed totally with how he handled it and how the police operate as a whole. So I think that the way that they showed that in that particular film, I think that was a much better portrayal to give you an idea of how much pressure the actual police officer would feel in that particular context. But with this whole thing with Common, yeah, I don't think they really portrayed that too much. And I will also add that in terms of the message of Black Lives Matter, I felt like that was the dominant message of the movie. I know they had mentioned all lives matter, but to me, I felt that was the dominant message because even as Star was dealing with all this other stuff, it kept coming back to this happened to Khalil. But even when she was talking about, well, this is an example of how would you treat this person in that situation, it kept going back to this being about race. So I don't really know if they really captured the essence of all lives matter as strongly as they could have. But I thought, considering what happened to Khalil in the movie, they had to go in this direction because everything that was done, it's just like, when, after it happened and she went to the precinct, and even it's like everybody was just going against it, saying, making it, oh, well, we don't know what this kid was involved in. He was messing with drugs, all this other stuff. They tried to put the blame on him. So I feel like the focus of Black Lives Matter had to be the main focal point of this movie for that reason. But yeah, they probably could have portrayed all lives matter more, but I'm fine with them focusing on this because it made sense within the context.
Very true. I kind of agree with you. From the book standpoint, it did touch on it a little bit more. Uncle Carlos had a monologue or two about him explaining how hard it is to be a cop and that he gets it from both sides, and that at the end of the day, he's still a Black man. So I do wish that they would have implemented that just a little bit more. Even, there were speeches that she had between Uncle Carlos, and I know there was the scene when she left school early. Remember when they was doing the Black Lives Matter protest, and it was all just technically to get out of school that day.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that was a more fitting time to have like a conversation about what it's like to be a police officer, especially a police officer of color, and how a shooting affects him as well. Also, I found very interesting was that even though Khalil had like one major scene, his entire spirit carried throughout the entire movie. That one scene, how it just impacted everything. And you felt him. Even when he wasn't there, you felt his character constantly in each scene. How do you feel that they did with that? Was that a good enough job with having, Khalil only just be in that one scene and having like his spirit around though?
I definitely think they did an excellent job with that because as a viewer, when you're introduced to this character, you get a little bit of context of his backstory and how he's connected to Star. But because the character and the actor, by the way, is so charming and charismatic, you definitely want to see what happens with that character. I mean, because they had the whole thing of, eventually he wanted to get with Star, and that didn't happen. So you already feel lost. You feel sympathy for her not being able to explore more with him outside of just being friends, but also because that guy, this actor has been in, I believe he was also in Detroit. So this actor, he did a great job of portraying the character, and you had to feel the loss of that it was a personal loss, and you can understand the anger and the outrage that not only Star had, but the whole community of the situation. So I think they did a fantastic job just expressing that in the actual film. One thing I want to mention real quick, that movie I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
It's it's called Monsters and Men. That's that's the film that I think did a very good job of really trying to explain things from a cop's point of view, because it had two other characters in it. One of the other guys in this movie is the guy that was in that series on Netflix for She's Gotta Have It. He played one of the other characters. Yeah. But yeah, and I just wanted to mention that because that was another good movie. But yeah, in particularly how it handled the cops' reaction to what took place, they did a fantastic job on that because it showed you the struggles on both sides. But yeah.
Yep. I completely agree that he was there throughout the entire movie, even if it was just that one scene. So we have to, in order for him to be there, we have to like talk about Amanda Steinberg and her performance.
Oh yeah.
Star. I thought that this was just, she always was amazing in anything that she is, but she's been kind of, I feel that she was floundering a little bit in previous movies like Everything Everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I mean, it wasn't exactly as emotional as, this movie, but she's lost, she could have did a little bit better, but I felt that this movie was just her official stamp saying, I am here. Look what everything that I can do. Here are all my skills that I can just throw on the table. Look how amazing I am. And to see her in that role, and it was essentially her grieving for like 2 hours straight with crying and all these different emotional cues. I felt that she helped with the anchor. She was the one who pulled us into the whole movie. How do you feel about her performance? Was it good enough?
Oh yeah, I thought she did a fantastic job, and I do think when you think about this particular movie as well as the character and the importance of the character, you really do when a director or producer wants to make a movie like this and is so pivotal for the main character to be important. I think they really nailed it with casting her for this. I know she has said she wants to do more meaningful and impact, meaningful movies. So this was a very good decision for her to not only take on this role, but for them to also cast her in this role because she really, really owned it. Of course, you felt it when she was emotional about Khalil and what happened to him and being and witnessing that up close and personal. You got a feeling of that, but then you also got a feeling of when she started to feel empowered and wanted to speak up about what happened and did not hold back. So I think they did a fantastic job casting her for this movie. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I know there's some other movies that she is involved in now, but I don't know too much about those movies. But I'm very curious to see the other projects that she has in the future because I think she's definitely going to continue to do movies like this that have a powerful message behind them. So definitely looking forward to it.
I really hope so as well. And also, you cannot have the way how they did it. You cannot have an Amanda Steinberg and then not have a good supporting cast. For me, I think the standout performance was Nick Hornby, who played the father.
Yes.
He was incredible. Also, there's two villains. One of the other villains is Anthony Mackie, who is the town's drug dealer. He basically rules everyone, and everyone is in fear of him. Two very impactful actors, two amazing performances that help to drive the many themes of this movie. Because even though we're dealing with the police shooting in Khalil, we're also dealing with Anthony Mackie as the king of, I believe it was the Overlords.
Yep.
And he is terrorizing this neighborhood of Garden Heights. He's terrorizing them. And everyone's living in fear, and it's a lot of gang territory. And it also gets in the very interesting conversation that they have is, the gang life about why do so many young African-American males end up joining a gang. And he's like kind of that representation of, I think, the theme that they're trying to go for in the storyline. So how do you feel about that compared to Nick Hornby, who, as the father, he was originally in the gang, but he decided to step away from that life after going to jail. He stepped away from that, and he was on the straight and narrow, and he now runs the grocery store in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so I do want to say this. Nick Hornby's performance, by far, I personally think that had to be the strongest performance in the whole film next to Amandla, because I know it's not just about the fact that he portrayed this character, but I can honestly tell you, and a lot of people will believe this, in the community today, the Black community, the fathers are always portrayed as deadbeats. They don't spend time with their kids. They're never around. They're never in their kids' lives. You rarely see that, and either they're locked up in jail or they're just out doing all types of crazy things. So I think to have this father character that was just so strong-willed. Of course, he made mistakes in his past, but he was strong-willed. Tried to teach his kids right from wrong, and was making a change and in their lives. I think that was an image that people need to see, because too many times I hear stories of, a lot of young men growing up without a father. So I think that right there was the image we need to see. And there's been quite a number of movies that would also portray that the father is not in the lives of the character. So this was needed, and I think he did a fantastic job, even down to all the sayings that he had, so many quotes that he said, so many powerful quotes that he said to them. And even when he talked about, when he named all of them, what their names meant, that was just excellent writing, powerful insight right there, because it really makes you think further about him wanting the best for his kids, but also understanding them and trying to teach them right from wrong so that they don't make mistakes. So yeah, he did a fantastic job. And then as for Anthony Mackie, I'm a huge fan of Anthony Mackie, all of the work he's done, even down to when he was in She Hate Me. This guy has never really been portrayed as an enemy in any of the movies he's been in. There might be some that maybe I didn't see he was an enemy, but I was surprised to see the trailer. I didn't really know he was an enemy at that point. I recall seeing that point where he said, "She better not call 50. She can't talk to the police." So, but to see him in this particular portrayal, I definitely understood some of the stuff that he dealt with, the fact that he didn't want anybody to know about his organization. And then when Star went out there and said what she said, he's now concerned about that. But I think he did an excellent job as somebody who, had to portray the character that he was. And I do like that when everything came to an end, this wasn't a character that turned over. I mean, obviously, the incident that happened at the end was something, I recall when I saw it with everybody else in the theater, they was like, "Oh, I hope that nothing happens to the little boy." But at that point, it wasn't a cliche ending for the bad guy, in the sense where, he just decides, all right, I'm going to turn over a new leaf completely and just, you're right, everything I did was wrong, and just make up like that. No, he met his fate at the end as he needed to, because of the actions that he took. So I like that they showed that. But I think Anthony Mackie did an excellent job as the bad guy as well. So yeah, definitely him and Hornsby, they delivered in this movie. And I would like to hope that Hornsby is in more movies, because I know he's in a lot of TV shows. I haven't seen him in too many movies, so I hope that changes after this.
I agree. He is a superb actor, and to just see him in this role, he was, the father I feel like everybody needed. Just right there, they did wrong. They recognized they're wrong, but they are there for their family no matter what. And to see a home with two parents, that's not something that we always see in movies, as you were saying earlier. So just for that alone was like, yes, we made it. We're not a stereotype. So I completely enjoyed that, and I was very excited for that. Also, one of the other characters that we have to talk about is Haley, played by Sabrina Carpenter. Haley is Star's best friend. She is the white best friend. She, I feel, represents all of the lovely white people who don't fully understand what Black Lives Matters mean. They don't understand what it is to experience racism because they've never really experienced it. So they can say, yeah, we're not racist, but they still partake in saying some things that are just very racist-like. One of the big parts of the movie was the fried chicken incident, which is also very played up in the book. Well, this is the point of the book where I was ready to start throwing things. In the movie, she's playing basketball with Star, and she said, "Pretend it's a bucket of fried chicken." because her head wasn't really in the game, and she was trying to get her to focus. So she said, "Pretend it's a bucket of fried chicken," and comments like that. And there were other comments that were made where she just doesn't fully get it. There's also the incident where they used the Black Lives Matter protest as a way for them to get out of school early because they just didn't want to be in school. That's also highlighted. And I thought that was really interesting that they did that, because there are times where you kind of feel there are certain protests that people are joining and it kind of feels disingenuous. So she represented that disingenuous side where it's like, yeah, Black people, they go through things, but they wouldn't be in that situation if they didn't put themselves in there. How do you feel that she was portrayed? Do you think it was accurately portrayed, especially in real world scenarios today where, we're dealing with a lot of hostility and still police shootings?
Oh yeah, I think they did a pretty decent job of portraying that. One question I did want to ask you is that incident where they ditched school. Is that also in the book, or was that something that was added to make the movie stand out a little bit differently?
I believe it. Oh God, see, I read the book like a year ago, so I want to say that it was in the book, but I don't think that it was that well of a big focus on it.
Yeah, well, I
did it in the book. There were some certain things that they cut out because Haley, I felt, was a lot more vicious in the book.
Yeah, well, I do believe that they definitely, as a character that was doing stuff and wasn't really aware. I mean, she would make a stupid comment, but wasn't really aware that it was offensive. But they probably could have emphasized it a little bit more. That she did become a different person, because I mean, at the end of the movie, would star. So they could have maybe done more to really emphasize why that is, besides just the ridiculous comments that she made. So yeah, I do think they could have probably pushed it a little bit further. But as far as the character being unaware of certain things, I do believe that there are a lot of people in this country that they would react to something and they will be unaware of what they are doing or what they are saying. However, I do believe a lot of those people do eventually come to the realization that, okay, yeah, maybe I am a racist, or maybe what I did say was wrong. I do think that they eventually do get to that point. To see that this character didn't get to that point, I believe you are right. They could have pushed it a little bit further and just fully emphasized, okay, yes, and she is a racist for sure now, because she was unapologetic and she actually knew what she was doing when she said certain stuff. So they probably could have pushed that a little bit further.
Yeah, I felt that they could have did it a little bit better. However, I do say, because of the fact that they had, that's not in the book, is that Star snapped. Remember when she snapped and pulled out? I forgot what it was that she pulled out, but she said pretend it was a gun, and she snapped on her and was like, "How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel now?"
Yeah. I believe it was actually the same brush that Khalil had pulled up. Yeah.
Yes, the brush. So there was an argument that they was having, and then she was basically saying, well, he should have followed the rules, and he should have, had his hands up and, did exactly what the officer said. And in real life scenarios, there are people who say that. And in real life scenarios, were people who did exactly that, and they were still murdered. And in Khalil's case, it was the hairbrush that was mistaken for a gun. And so when she held up that hairbrush, and it kind of looked like for that one moment she was going to beat her with the hairbrush, that I felt fully encased everything about why it's so hard for people to understand, and the frustrations that people of color get from others who don't understand what it's really like to be Black in America, and also police brutality. That whole scene kind of made up for the other scenes that they left out, because Haley, as I was saying, is a lot more vicious in the book, and she's also very more vicious to the other friend who is Asian. They really removed a lot of her scenes, the Asian girls scenes, that also reflect just how bad Haley's actions and words are. But it also, with the Asian girl, she doesn't say anything. So it also represented that they cut out the side that, yeah, even though she says things that may be racist, she's not racist. I still hang out with her anyway, and she never addresses that. I kind of do wish that they would have put those scenes in, or at least expounded upon that, because at the end, I remember when she was still talking to her friend, the Asian girl, she kind of felt like, I'm kind of with you. We need to like get rid of Haley and not be friends with her anymore. But it wasn't fully explained. It wasn't a full impact of which it could have been. But I do felt that was Haley did the best that she, what she could have. Sabrina Carpenter did the best with Haley that was given on the script. I felt that she could have been a lot more accurate in the book, a lot more meaner. She comes across as very they say things out of her mouth. Like, for example, if I was to say, Tommy got arrested today, and she would have been like, oh yeah, well, he's black. What else would you expect? Those kind of things would fly out of her mouth. And I really wish that they would have put those little type of digs in there a little bit more, so we could just see how bad she is. But also, one of the other people that she had was kind of like her ally that Star had, was her white boyfriend. How do you feel that having that side in the story, how do you feel that balance out things? Because remember, originally, that actor that we have, who was in he plays the lead in Riverdale. He's Archie in Riverdale. And they originally had Kane Lawley. Kane Lawley was originally supposed to be the actor. However, he went online back in the day and went on this racist N-word profanity-laced tirade about black people drinking purple Kool-Aid and eating fried chicken. So they had to fire him. And they had to get in this new actor right on the spot very quickly and reshoot the scenes. So he played Star's boyfriend. How do you feel that character was in the movie? Because she kind of struggled with having a white boyfriend, especially going with what she was dealing with now, and the whole, seeing white people and having to realize that not all white people are racist. It just happens to be this one cop, or the system itself is racist. How do you feel that balanced out?
I think well, in terms of the boyfriend character,
Yes.
not really understanding all that was going on. I mean, I kind of understand how there was some aspects of the situation that he didn't get,
Right.
but he always made an effort to always be there and listen and try to be there for her when she needed him. But I know in the beginning, after the incident happened, she tried to avoid him, didn't really want to address him, because even, this is another character that, he was doing stuff like listening to hip hop, making mixtapes and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff, they say that's already in our culture to like that type of music and all this other type of stuff. So I feel like once he understood what was going on with her situation, he definitely made a strong effort to be there for her and listen. But I do think that it's hard for certain people to. Well, I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand a situation if it's something that another particular race is dealing with, depending on the situation. Now, if it's discrimination, racism, it might be hard for somebody to understand that if they're on the other side. But for those that make an effort to really try and understand it and be there and be supportive of the ones that are having bad things happen to them, that I think is what stands out, and that is something that is needed in general here today in the situations that we all deal with. At least people that are in your corner no matter what. But yeah, I just think he did a good job as far as acting. I'm pretty sure that once everything went down, even afterward, he still had questions of not understanding, why the officer did that, so on and so forth. But I mean, he made a conscious effort to try and be there and be supportive. So he definitely deserves some credit for that. But I think this actor did a good job. The guy you mentioned previously, I did not know about this tirade, so I would say it's a good decision that they decided not to include him in this film.
Ooh, you remember, it's weird. It was like talking about how like black people eating fried chicken. And remember, there was a fried chicken scene.
Yeah.
And then he's going on about, drinking Kool-Aid. And I felt like they had to do something. And they found KJ Appa very quickly. And they had to reshoot everything very quickly. It was very interesting how that ended up working. But I never saw it that way. But yes, he does play like the understanding. I don't understand everything that's going on, but I'm going to be sympathetic. And I really think that, especially with the book and the overall message, is not necessarily you have to, go out in those streets and start marching. The thing is that you have to be empathetic to what people are going through. Mm-hmm. So things when you say all lives matter, when you're trying to is a counter argument to Black Lives Matter, it still kind of makes you not understanding the message that we're saying is like, yes, everyone matters. Right now, we're just getting shot at an alarming rate where we can't even, go to the store or have cigarettes in front of the store or whatever it is. Simple crimes that other people would easily get a slap on the wrist for, or even just be in jail for. We don't even make it to the jail. Mm-hmm. Just be empathetic to what is going on. And I felt that Chris plays the character of the boyfriend. He didn't understand. I don't think he will ever fully understand. He showed up to his very privileged life, very house. He's white, a white male in today's society. So there's certain things that you're just not going to understand just because it's not your experience. Just like we will never understand what it's like to live in, say, another country and experience that culture. We just won't understand it. Yeah. But to not pass judgment upon it, not to be so quickly to have a counter argument. So with him, I do feel they portrayed that message very great. My only issue was that in the book, they have a very strong chemistry with each other, and they bond over the 90s, and they bond over the Fresh Prince. So one of the things is they love the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they will just watch it repeatedly, and they know all the theme songs, and they get the shoes, and they start dressing alike, and it's very cute. My issue was that I didn't feel their connection and their chemistry in the movie. And again, remember, they had to do the casting very quickly. So maybe that was also one of the issues. Also, I felt that there were scenes, I guess the limo scene was really great, but there were other scenes that they could have really had him, involving himself more and wanting to be in her life and saying, you're not going to push me away. Because in the book, he's like, you're not going to push me away. You're going to explain this to me. I may not understand it, but I have my ears open. I want to know what's going on. However, I really did love the part where he was determined to meet the father. And they had that. It was the trio scene with the brother, Star and Chris, and they're discussing macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
And the different cultural differences of how we make macaroni and cheese. And the audience was very vocal during that. He was like, box macaroni and cheese. Oh, Lord, no. So that was hilarious. And with Chris, I kind of felt that they balanced it out with, you needed some humor. Because for me, I was crying from like the start of the movie because I just knew what was going to happen. So I was crying from the start and to the end. So you needed those periods of like breakup and cuteness of like, I love you, to break it up. So I felt that he was a good placement for that as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. And just like you mentioned, it's very sad and emotional from the very beginning. And then it's like there is a shift to now the drama element of the film as you're worried about the character because of this, or now the overlord. They know that she spoke up about this situation that they're involved in. So now you constantly fear for the character and what's going to happen as a result of her speaking out about it. So, the comedy definitely was needed to try and, because it got very tense. As I'm watching the film, everybody in the audience is like, oh, they're on their pins and needles, wondering what's going to happen to the character now. So, it got very tense. So, you do need some of those moments in there to make it, a little playful with the jokes. One thing I do want to add, though, very quickly is in regards to that scene where he met the father, what I especially love about that is that the father did not flinch. the character didn't magically change because now I see my daughters dating a white guy. No, he was still pro-black, still, in the same way that he tried to raise the kids to be, which I enjoyed. I think that was excellent. They kept him consistent throughout. But even after, when he talked to Star about it, and he saw that obviously this guy is important to Star, so he backed off, and he said he was cool with it. But yeah, I'm glad how they kept that character consistent, and he didn't all of a sudden change up because he saw the boyfriend is now white. No, he remained the same pro-black, strong-willed black man that he was even before that. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think that whole thing with interracial dating, they summed it up in that one scene where he was like, I raised you, I must have raised you wrong to hate a black man. And she was like, no, you raised me to love a man.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was like, I love who I love. I'm sorry. And then he got it because, he stopped protesting after that. He was like, oh, and he just kind of slid on out the door there. He was like, okay, I'll see you. And also, we have to talk about Regina Hall, who played the mother, Lisa. She was amazing. Yeah. By the way, you cannot have a character as strong as Maverick without there being a Lisa. So I just wanted to say how much I thoroughly loved her performance. And I think even with all these characters, no one was overcrowded. I didn't feel that any scenes were rushed. They all had their equal time and their equal say, and they all had everything that they represented. And with Regina Hall, the strong black woman who is dealing with a lot in life, raising those kids, also dealing with Maverick, because Maverick was that perfect.
Yeah.
Remember the whole child? She had Sakani that was out of wedlock during that one time when they wasn't together, and she had the kid, and so she's raising technically someone else's child. And she comes with this very strong black woman who's like, you're going to have to make your choices for yourself. I'm not going to always be there. And, that kind of helps guide Star as well. So I just have to say how much I love that and loved her. So I just love the cast.
Yeah, she did it. She did an excellent job. I know a lot of her earlier films. She was in a lot of those comedies. I remember because I thought that stuff was funny, but to see her in this much more serious, meaningful role was great to see. She also was at the screening too that I went to. So that was awesome. She did a fantastic job.
Yay. See, I didn't get the full cast. I got Amandla, and I got the Algie Smith who plays Khalil, and I got the director, and I got Ava DuVernay. I wish I would have gotten the full cast.
Oh no, we didn't get the full cast. So we didn't get Ava, and Hornsby wasn't there. Common wasn't there. Amandla, it was there. Al, you said it's Algie.
Algie.
Yeah. As soon as they announced the cast, like, because they had them come up on stage, man, there was nothing but women screaming as soon as he got announced.
Remember, it's a new edition.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah. See, a lot of. Remember, he was on tour. He played Ralph, so he got a lot of female fans just yelling and screaming.
Oh yeah. See, yeah. So okay, that makes sense. That does make sense. The other thing that I did learn when I went to that screening is movie was actually shot here in Atlanta. I had a chance to see a lot of the areas that they showed. The only thing that I thought was a giveaway is that they did have a bus sign, because they have the transportation system here is called the MARTA. They did have that bus and train sign a couple of scenes in that movie. I was like, oh, so yeah, I knew exactly where they shot that at. But yeah, it was awesome to see that. That also, it was another reason why I believe the mayor was there to support the film, and she felt like she was the one that was making it possible for them to have the screening earlier in Atlanta. So, but yeah, it was awesome to see that for sure.
You guys are getting so many different films and like TV shows down there. I'm jealous. I imagine, like, when you leave your house, you just step on someone's set.
Oh well, hey, I wish that was the case, but unfortunately, no. Where I live at is a little bit further away from where all the action is. But yeah, hopefully I will run into some people, whenever they start filming some more Marvel movies or something in the area. Anybody but Tyler Perry. I don't want to see his whatever he's working on. I want to see what these other people
Ouch.
are working
Ouch.
on.
Or Tyler. Well, you guys do have Love and Hip Hop.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, Lord no, Lord no. That used to be my guilty pleasure of watching that show. Not anymore. I think I have outgrown that phase. For now, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, anything else that you want to say aside from how amazing it is? I loved everything. I think we covered all the themes.
Oh no, I definitely would encourage everybody to go check this movie out. I don't really know if it has made
Yeah,
all of the.
it's
Oh, it has.
international. From what I understand, international is the 22nd, and America is the 19th. So it's out already.
Okay, yeah, I believe the budget was around 25 million. So yeah, I really surpassed that number. I mean, I am aware that there are other movies that are in the box office now, of course, but this is a movie I think people should see, especially because that cast. And I'm very curious to see, as I mentioned earlier, because I believe that they're going to start getting a lot of other opportunities, like the younger cast that play some of the younger brothers and stuff. They're going to probably start to get some more projects that they'll be involved in. So I'm looking forward to where we're in next. But excellent film, a must see, and I really can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, the same with me. It's movie of the year, most emotional, well balanced, funny, sad, heartbreaking, and also one little thing I wanted to touch upon. Even if you was to take away the theme of the race and take away the theme of Black Lives Matter and all of that technical political aspects of it, you still have a very emotional movie that's about grief. How to overcome grief, the process of grief, how we all deal with it differently. They touched upon that, especially with the grandmother. This is a movie about what do you do when someone is no longer there in your life? That person who you always run to, who is always your protector, your comforter, someone you've known since you were a baby. What does it feel like to lose that person? And they did a really great job of showing just grief itself, how grief was a main character as well. And also, I wanted to say that even though we never saw him, because technically he's dead, even though we never saw him, Tupac was a character in this movie. You can't have The Hate You Give without Tupac. Yep. So very much thank you to the estate for giving Angie Thomas the rights for this, because his lyrics and the songs that he left behind basically is The Hate You Give. So without him, I feel that, yes, it may have worked, but it would not have been as impactful. I feel that Tupac was this overall mentor for the community, especially for Star.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So I thoroughly recommend it. I enjoyed it. You laugh, you cry. It'll change your life. Read the book, because you have to read the book. It's just as amazing. It's one of those films that I feel they truly adapted right. It's hard to get a book adaptation. Not everything is going to be 100%, but this was 99.9%, accurate. So thoroughly.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some time to read the book myself, for sure.
Yes, read the book, everyone. So I think that about does it.
Yes. So hey, definitely want to thank you all for listening. Did you have any shout outs that you wanted to give?
Shout outs to everyone who's listening, who don't know whether or not they're going to go see the movie. I hope this changed your mind. Shout out to everyone who was involved in making this movie. Shout out to Angie Thomas, who, by the way, has a sequel coming up called On the Come Up. So maybe that will be turned into a movie. Yeah. On the Come Up. It's not a continuation of Star, but it represents one of the characters from the book. And it also takes place in Garden Heights. So that's also good.
Awesome.
For those who don't know, a quick little, I don't know what you would call it, but a quick little side note. For those who don't know, there is a book called Love, Simon. One of the characters is Star's cousin. So.
Whoa! Wow! I didn't know that because I did see Love, Simon recently.
So the black guy from Simon is Star's cousin.
Wow! Wow!
Yeah.
I did not know that.
On Instagram, yeah, they're related. That's his cousin. So that was awesome. So yeah. So that does it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the movie, enjoyed the book. Yay! Stay tuned for any more type of podcasts that we have about movie reviews or TV shows.
Yes, and we do have some stuff coming up for sure. Yes, absolutely.
So also enjoy Daredevil.
I need to finish that. I got to finish watching that after recording. But yeah. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you all next time. And yeah, definitely, if you see the movie, let us know what you think in the comment section. Please do.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again. We'll talk to you all later.
Bye.